So, any surprises, Mr. Callahan, from these final cuts?
Jabrill Peppers on Friday. And those are two separate things. When they cut Jabrill Peppers Tuesday, I'm going to be surprised. You do it 3 days later after you seemingly have your 53-man finalized. That's another separate surprise with the timing. It makes it all the more curious.
What happened in those 3 days that they didn't know before?
It's a great question because I checked in on this and got kind of an unclear answer, basically. Like, hey, it was a lot of things. Basically what Vrabel said at the podium yesterday. And I texted a couple of executives and asked from 3 different teams, like, hey, was he available? Did you hear about him via trade? Because I figured you'd just be able to flip Jabrill Peppers for 6th-round pick, maybe a 7th, whatever. He said, no, he didn't really hear anything. And Mike Reese said he heard from one team that did hear from them. But one of those same executives goes, something had to have happened or was happening. And thanks to people like Mike Giardi, I think Phil Perry had it too, that there was no off-field incident. But to me, the one thing I'd land on is they're really cognizant year one of Vrabel's message getting through to everybody. And that is not just the rookies who are going to listen because they have to, but the new veterans. We've seen totally new leadership. If Peppers wasn't totally on board, given his role had just diminished, this might be, you're not good enough for us to keep around and try to make you happy. Why don't we let you go play and play somewhere else, which might have been what he wanted.
Okay, and so it is, Duggar is still on the team. Is that surprising to you?
No. I know it was surprising to the team and to Duggar's camp Tuesday when the team makes a decision in the last 20 minutes before the deadline that he was going to end up staying there. Because the last 2 weeks, they talked with multiple teams. They got closer with one. But the issue was how much money the Patriots wanted to eat and didn't want to eat, and that's what the other team was asking for. But because of all of the discussions and some of the reporting I had, both sides were like, yeah, he'll be off. We'll split. It'll be fine. It didn't happen. So him staying, though, because the Patriots didn't want to eat $10 million for nothing and I have a player who at least can be on the scout team, which is what he was yesterday at practice.
I saw that.
It doesn't totally surprise me. But they didn't expect to land there last Tuesday.
Okay, do you think you could be traded?
Yeah, the other thing I heard after that had been finalized was this is not a guarantee. Like, don't expect Kyle Duggar to have this, Sharpie roster spot. And he might even, this is pure speculation on my part, but be a healthy scratch on some of these Sundays. You know what I mean?
Well, that sounds like it's trending in that direction. It sounds, if they have him on the scout team, it sounds like that's certainly a possibility. But he's not the defensive back to worry about. The defensive back to worry about is Christian Gonzalez, who I thought for sure would be back by now. I mean, you saw it happen with Justin Jefferson in Minnesota. They sat him down for a month to make sure the hamstring was healthy. He was back at practice last week. I figured it was the same thing. It isn't.
Me too. And my thing is I've not been worrying about this because I'm just not going to worry about guys who are injured when there's a game more than 2 weeks away. Today, there are 5 days left until that game Sunday. He's not practiced in 36 days. You're talking about more than 5 weeks. And hamstrings are notoriously tricky. You talk to any trainer or anyone in the athletic training field, like they can get very finicky as of how far you've recovered and how you're able to test that. Mike Vrabel didn't tell me that he had a setback when I asked him that directly, but he said, well, it hasn't gone, and then he stopped and changed the thought, which to me says this is either taking longer or he did have a setback, and I have no reason to believe right now, more speculation on my part, that he'll play Sunday.
Really? And
it's been more than 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, and so if he doesn't play Sunday with injuries like this, how long does that generally last? Do you have any kind of perceived timetable on it?
No insight there. And I don't know if they do either. Because the other part about my confidence there are two things. We would see him walking around practice every single day. With Mike Vrabel, as we saw for stretches with Bill Belichick, if you were really hurt, media never saw you. They didn't want to let you know that someone had a wrap on their knee or a sleeve on their leg or whatever it might be. Christian Gonzalez is walking around in a beanie and a hoodie and sweatpants at every practice. I'm like, okay, he's fine. He looks fine. The other part is I just would have shelved him anyway. He's your best player. So the fact that now Mike Vrabel's like, we can't even put him out for a walkthrough tells me that they're either going with more caution than they expected or, again, he had some kind of setback. So there's no timetable for me.
Okay. Just because it's on the top of everyone's mind and anyone's been talking about the Micah Parsons trade, the 2 first-round picks, the defensive lineman for Micah Parsons, the deal is made. He's very highly paid, highest paid non-quarterback, I believe, in the NFL right now. You're going to hear fans of every team say this. It should the Patriots, he's young, but it was 2 first-round picks. Should the Patriots have invested in a player like Micah Parsons?
I wouldn't have. And it's the easiest thing in the world to sit here and be like, the Patriots should have traded for a top 5 player in the league. How else do you get them? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's likely they probably don't get a player like Micah Parsons with either of those first-round picks. But their issues are not just the lack of star power. It's the lack of depth behind them. And that's been because of the draft. Like, Fred, I think, honestly, if the Patriots were allowed, and this somehow worked in the NFL, to keep just the players they really wanted, instead of filling out a 53-man roster, that number would have been in like the low 40s. So if Mike Vrabel, who's taking a long-term view on this, as he should, because if you're going to sustain winning, you need to get it right draft after draft after draft. You give up your biggest prize assets. It's a team that might pick in the top 15 for a guy who's unbelievable right now, but is also known to be a little bit of a locker room issue, according to his own teammates in Dallas.
Yeah, and then AFC GM or front office guys said the same thing. He's not loved by his teammates. He's a problem, but
and where do you go with that?
Produces,
like, okay, now we expect the Patriots to make a wild card run. They still can't pass protect. You still want a better receiving core. Adding Parsons doesn't solve the problems that are keeping you from making the next level. Going, they should contend for an AFC title or a Super Bowl.
I wouldn't do it on that side of the ball.
Right.
Without even bringing into question all the the locker room issues and the money and all that. It's just that's not the part of this team that concerns me.
Totally.
And I'm not convinced about the defense either. But I wouldn't make a big move for that player on defense. That's not what you need right now.
How much better do you see Dallas' side in doing that?
No.
Okay. How much better does that make Green Bay?
I'm picking them to go to the Super Bowl
Because of Micah
Parsons.
Okay.
I thought they were close. I picked them last year, and I have the Ravens beating them this year. But that is a guy that fundamentally changes your defense. And here's the best part. This is the stat from Bill Barnwell whenever that trade happened, because I completely lost track of the days. When the Cowboys had him on the field over the last 4 years, they were the best defense in football by EPA per play. When Parsons was off the field, and this is more than 1,000 plays, they were the second worst defense in the NFL. That's one player.
His pressure rate was so far ahead of everyone else, correct? He could have gone like 200 snaps without a pressure and still led.
However you want to slice it, against true pass sets or in terms of total pressures or overall pressure rate, whatever it is, that is equivalent to the on-off splits for Nikola Jokic in Denver or Tatum here in Boston or LeBron for any number of years with the Cavs. That is not only just a below-average defense now in Dallas, it's probably an average team because they got rid of that guy.
Okay, what about, and I've heard this from national guys, that in football, outside of the quarterback, other players are fungible in that, teams win while losing star players that aren't quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, you have to reinvest those resources, right? You freed up amount of cap space you would have committed to him otherwise, and their cap probably would have been over 50% for CeeDee Lamb and Mike.
This being said, is that I'll give you an example. The Lions lost Hutchinson, and they still they lost to the Washington in the playoffs, but they lost Hutchinson, who's a top 20 player.
Still had a great regular season,
and still won far more than they lost without him. It is. And so it's interesting that you say that Green Bay now is your pick. Well, you picked them before, but that this makes Green Bay this much better just because teams lose players that aren't quarterbacks and still seem to win.
So I think if you cited 10 examples, and that Lions one is a good one, you would find that all of those teams had good depth and players that you could at least plug and play. No one's as good as Aiden Hutchinson at defensive end for the Lions, but you've got enough good guys there to replenish that because the Lions have crushed the draft now for 4 or 5 years.
This isn't a Lions. This isn't a Patriots argument. This is that Micah Parsons will make Green Bay better, but players that aren't star quarterbacks don't make teams Super Bowl teams, if that makes any sense. Dallas didn't do anything with Micah Parsons. And, do you invest that much in a guy that's not a quarterback?
Okay.
That's kind of was the thinking.
So I think the piece of this is to ask why Dallas didn't do that, if that's a piece of evidence you're going to use to support that case of, okay, non-quarterbacks are not enough of a difference maker. My counter would be Micah Parsons is in such a tier of his own. Like, if that player is a non-quarterback, but he's a top 5 player in the league, because even Bill O'Brien was telling us 2 years ago before the Patriots played Dallas and got their butts kicked, that guy is by definition a difference maker. And he's a difference maker by what he does to the opposing team's quarterback. And how he's also a force multiplier for your own defense, where he's drawing the double teams. When you're a defensive coordinator and I need to get to the quarterback, and I understand he's going to take 2 offensive linemen, or a lineman and a running back and a tight end out of the picture, that lets everybody else eat more and have an easier job.
Well, no, I get that.
So to me, all of that adds up.
No,
to
I get that you need a
equivalent.
pass rusher in the NFL, and that pass rusher, left tackle, quarterback, and corner are the positions of the elite positions in the NFL. It's just now look, I think Dallas should have kept them too, but it's just giving up so much for one player, and that player hasn't won. Is there an argument to be made that is it worth, for a Green Bay team that, is Jordan Love as quarterback, is that the team that should make that move?
I think Green Bay also looks at this holistically and says Jordan Love's going to make another leap in his second year as a starter. Like, they're banking on that, and they are because they paid him handsomely. But within that argument you kind of laid out, I hear a little bit of an inherent contradiction. Okay, the player who's a non-quarterback hasn't won enough, so why are we going to trade for him if he doesn't drive winning? But non-quarterbacks are not worth it because they don't drive winning. So was it his fault that they lost, or was it on the
it's not
quarterback?
Micah Parsons' fault that he lost. It's that, look, if you can draft Micah Parsons, you pay him. Like, he's a part of your team and you pay him.
Yeah.
Because you drafted him and you pay him. And that's what you do in the NFL, draft and develop. Again, I think it was a bad trade by Dallas too. I'm just talking about the improvement of Green Bay.
I understand.
I'm just kind of arguing that I don't know if, because people are now like you, but you like them anyway. But like people that didn't have them even winning the North are now like, oh, well, they're a Super Bowl team. And I would push back. I don't think a pass rusher is the difference between you not winning a division to all of a sudden making a Super Bowl. Like, that's not the there's a lot of good pass rushers on bad teams.
So I think that zooming out, any team that you consider like a contender has probably 5 to 10, maybe 12% championship equity. Like, your odds of winning, no matter, even if you're the highest level of contender, are not 50% or more. You're not shooting for a probable outcome. For them also, okay, what was the missing piece in Green Bay? I'd say one of the bigger missing pieces was that pass rush. Like, they've got a really good offensive line, a really good young quarterback. Their receivers are all coming up with him. You're well coached. You got a decent secondary. Okay, Xavier McKinney, I think, was an all-pro as a safety last year. Like, it comes in a specific case of he came at a discount, just 2 first-round picks and an aging defensive tackle. They weren't going to pay anyway. He is the missing piece. And that has to be a specific piece, not just we're one player away who's this good and plays this position. That's how I think they looked at it. So the executives who disagree, I obviously disagree with them.
Look, the Rams, I mean, that was the way that the Rams did everything, is they went and got stars, and it worked.
Jalen Ramsey in the Super Bowl year.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it does work. It just was, whenever anything is so unanimously for something, I just want to see if there is a counter argument to it, because I want to see if there's any kind of logic to what Dallas did, which I wouldn't have done if I was Dallas. And if you're a Patriots fan, you should see this. If you draft and develop guys, you can pay them, and you can all. And we've talked about with this, Andrew, before. The cap isn't crap, and there is limits, but you can sign your own guys.
Yes.
You can keep your own guys.
You draft, you develop, and you resign.
But and the thing is, if you want to keep your own guys, you can keep your own guys.
Yes.
Like, you can do it. Like, there's ways you can do it. You can do it.
Unless you're Elliott Wolf and all those draft picks are out the door, as well as all the people he
he said
resigned are out the door.
If you want to keep those guys.
That's what I'm saying. They don't want to keep any of those guys.
No.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, look, we have Andrew. Do you have the 2 stats in the line?
And I told you we got a twist this season.
Oh, no.
Oh.
It's coming with a twist.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
He was dead the whole time.
What does this mean for my scorekeeping? Am I going to need a separate column for the twist?
You weren't here to write everything
The twist
down
only
before.
works because you're scorekeeping. So this is
Interesting.
simple. You guys got it, but it's going to be, the standings are never more important than they are this season.
I love
All
this.
right.
All right.
Love this.
For all the latest from the Sports Hub, Download the app at 985thesportshub.com.